While we're on music, just quickly, because I know you love karaoke.
Oh, I do, yeah.
Is it like a sacramental thing for you?
I think I was a little, embarrassed of singing for a while because I was in an acappella group in college.
Right, which also comes up in the TV series. That may be the most embarrassing clip in the whole series.
Yeah.
Is that we flash back. Which episode is it in?
How to Appreciate Wine.
Which is a good episode. I can't even remember how it's relevant to the episode.
There's a bit of a tie-in with cult mentality, where you just kind of go along with this kind of herd as you're trying to fit in, but then that, like, we became in the a cappella group, we were kind of groomed by this cult leader, and that we didn't realize was a cult leader at the time.
Was it Keith Raniere?
Yeah,
himself,
yeah.
I mean, look, there's so much. This is very. We've hit pay dirt because this is all very germane, and there's so much to say about this. The first thing is to say that they were called the Binghamton Crosbys.
Oh my God! Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's,
name?
very punny.
The Binghamton Crosbys. Right. It's a pun. It's a pun on Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
I remember when my brother he went off to Yale. We're half American, so we thought we had a pretty good understanding of American culture. But at Yale, he discovered glee clubs, not like as a participant, but he went along to one, and he was like, "Lou, it was the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen in my life." Like, they were dressed up like barbers shop quartets, wearing straw boaters and going like, "Mr. Sandman," and he said it was. I mean, it's a kind of. Well, how would you describe it?
Well, that feels less cringy to me than what I was doing. I feel like there's something really wholesome and kind of classic about the actual, straw hat or whatever. But we would do like classic rock kind of
that is worse
stuff. Yeah. So I was just trying to make friends in college, but I think like once you do a cappella, it's really like one of the most embarrassing things you could do on stage. So I feel comfortable, I think, doing other stuff now, like in situations that would mortify me. I feel like I've done the most mortifying thing already.
Did it feel, I mean, we've been joking around about it, like it's a little silly and corny, and there's something maybe saccharine or wholesome or vanilla, or if I want to play the race card, white. About it, right? But at the same time, like, it can be, if it's well done, it's also joyous and beautiful. Yeah. And if you were doing it yourself, it must have been amazing. Sometimes it must have felt great, right? We went down a little mini digression. I was talking about the Binghamton. We can't lose track of the Binghamton Crosbys.
Gotta go back.
The Binghamton Crosbys. So for people who don't know, Keith Raniere was what? Was he the musical director of the Binghamton Crosbys?
No.
Well, how was this?
No.
How does this all? People at home won't know, but Keith Raniere was, Raniere. How do you say his name?
I think it's Raniere.
Raniere. I think it's Raniere, isn't it? But it looks like it should be Raniere, or French name.
Yeah.
But he had a notorious cult. I think we can say that because they've been legally convicted and they're doing prison time.
Yeah.
Called NXIVM. Advertised itself as a kind of self-empowerment business group for women, or just a lot of women were in it?
Yeah, like the after my encounter with them, it transformed into kind of a women's empowerment, like kind of.
That was later, after your encounter with them. Okay, so I'm fast forwarding just so people know the backdrop to the story, which is, it turned out he was branding his initials on some of the members, like, that.
Yeah, they're like pelvis area.
On their pelvis. And there was inappropriate sexual behavior.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any claims here. But yeah, I think it was a kind of a chili of a lot of different bad stuff.
It was a lot of different stuff. But what was your association?
I was just in this kind of innocent little a cappella group, and then we would get invited to different events, like at some college or something, and we would just go if they would pay for us. And we got invited by this one organization to go to Albany to be part of a 3-day a cappella summit, where all of the best, quote unquote, a cappella groups from the region would come to study each other and practice. But then when we got there, it was very much like a sensory deprivation kind of thing immediately, just because the Egg in Albany is this kind of brutalist complex that has no windows, and you're just there for days. And we were subjected to kind of critiques from Keith and like Alison Mack and
who was his lieutenant at the time, the actress who was later on Smallville, and she sort of became the face for the group in a way. She had some celebrity based on her acting work.
Yeah, but she's very. I understand why she had the position that she did. She was like very personable and kind of like she made everyone feel kind of comfortable in this weird way. But yeah, then we were on the second day of the event. We basically Googled Keith Raniere for the first time.
Because you were getting weird vibes.
We were getting very weird vibes. He would float around the complex and
in strange clothes.
In like I don't know.
Dashiki? A kaftan?
Yeah, something. I'm trying to think of like something like that. And all of his followers would just kind of fawn over him, and they would talk about him like he was this deity, and he just looked like kind of just some hippie guy.
As you understood it to begin with, what was he there for?
That's what was so weird, is that it was so vague what their relationship to a cappella was, but also what they wanted to teach us and like why they cared about it. I realized that they were trying to push this other social network. They'd created a social network called 10C, which you could still look on the internet like Wayback Machine if you look it up. But it was just a questionnaire when you signed up that basically asked you some really personal questions, and it was just a portal to enter what I think was going to become this a cappella based cult that he was starting. It was clearly this whole thing was a slow burn, long game, trying to recruit new, impressionable young kids into his cult. But when we were there, we discovered that he was a con artist, and that there was this big Forbes article about how he had this like previous business that scammed a bunch of people. So we basically, at the closing night party, we made a huge scene and called them out and started asking him about the different people that had committed suicide after taking his executive success programs and stuff. And
was it orchestrated, or it just sort of happened organically? Your intervention.
It happened organically.
Really?
It was just like, it was groupthink kind of crowd violence kind of stuff. It was just like, oh, this guy is bad. We know this much, and we're just going to go like a wrecking ball into this place and try to confront him. And
so you did it. You basically decided that you weren't going to slope away or fail.
No.
You were going to actually intervene and say something. It felt important.
And then that started a major conversation with all the other a cappella groups on the a cappella message board at the time. And basically, I think because of what we did, Keith had to go underground for a little while, and he had to like dissolve his a cappella cult thing, and because he realized that people were suspicious about it now. And I think he went back into his little Albany complex, and he then came up with the kind of women empowerment cult thing, because it was just like his thought process was I think what is popular now, like what is that movie with Anna Kendrick, the a cappella movie, Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect, yeah.
That movie had just come out, and I think that like his brain is just like, oh, this is popular, and these people are impressionable. I can recruit them, in my weird way.
Did he have any helpful things to say about a cappella?
No.
What? So was he going like, oh, you're a little off key, or
His mantra was acapella is best shared.
which is true.
Yeah, which is just like all this stuff is it's like impossible to argue with. But it's like
That was what he kept saying.
But he also had his own a cappella group that he had formed, and
he would sing with them.
And they sang to us. And those videos, I think, are still on YouTube. They sing the most like rancid version of that song Roxanne I've ever heard.
By the Police.
Yeah.
Good night song.
And I'm listening. I think that's when I realized something was up, because when I heard them sing, it was the worst version of that song I'd ever heard. It was like tone, like they were so off key. They didn't like the tempo was off. It was just like, but they were being like, we were supposed to be in awe of this group, you know,